Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today in our session on adaptive cards in Teams. We are really excited to show you some of the things we have been working on. I'm Surya, Program Manager Teams Platform. I'm joined by my colleagues Ojasvi and Shubham. Let me jump straight into the agenda of this session. We'll start with a quick recap about adaptive cards. We'll update you on the design improvements which we are working on that will enable beautiful and intuitive experiences. Then we'll move on to Adaptive Cards V2 and how it will power next generation contextual views. We'll show you a demo with contextual views in action. And finally, we'll talk about our brand new investments in security and compliance capabilities for Adaptive Cards in Teams. And again, we will demo some of those capabilities. I'll hand over now to Ojasvi, who will walk you through Adaptive Cards, design improvements, and more.
Thanks, Surya. Hello, everyone. I'm Ujasvi, and I'm a program manager on the Teams developer platform working on bots and cards. And today I'll be talking about adaptive cards in Teams.
So, what are adaptive cards? Adaptive cards are an open card exchange format that enables developers to exchange content in a common and consistent way. It allows card authors to describe content as a simple JSON object, and the content can then be rendered natively by an application like Teams. This keeps it consistent with the look and feel of Teams. Okay, so while there are many cross-platform tools out there, what will set adaptive cards apart is the fact that they are cross-app. Our goal is once you've invested your time in adaptive cards, they accrue value to all Microsoft 365 products such as Teams and Outlook, and even some non-Microsoft platforms. Let's talk about the core capabilities of adaptive cards. First up, cards are actionable. And we've got some exciting capabilities coming up on this front. We're introducing something called universal actions, and I'll talk about this later in the presentation. Secondly, they benefit from the native performance on every platform and application. And arguably the best part is that they never stick out like a sore thumb, and they always blend in beautifully with the look and feel of the app that they're running on. Adaptive cards is supported across Microsoft 365 apps such as Outlook, Teams, Web Chat, Cortana, and Timeline. Again, underscoring the value proposition that I shared earlier, that you design a card once and it works across many Microsoft applications. Okay, now I'll switch gear and look at some of the design enhancements coming to adaptive cards in Teams. First up, we've got sender attribution in Teams. A common workflow we noticed inside Teams was a user creating a poll, a survey, or some other adaptive cards related form inside a group chat or a channel where they're collaborating with multiple people. Now, whenever the poll or the workflow got initiated, there was no standard way inside Teams platform to provide proper sender attribution. This is the problem we've solved over here. On the left, you've got the old design, and on the right, you can see the new design. Between the left and the right, you can clearly see that now sender attribution is available natively and logically where a user might expect to see the sender's name. We've also gotten rid of the double header that existed on the cards earlier. Fundamentally, this helps with compactness of design and improves the look and feel of these cards. This feature is generally available today. Next up, I've got full width adaptive cards. Today in Teams, adaptive cards tend to leave a lot of empty space within chats or channels. All of this space can be used for horizontal expansion and be used to create cards that are a little more centered and compact in their design. And now with the introduction of full width support, you'll be able to take advantage of all of this empty space as you design adaptive cards for your application in Teams. Information masking is another simple UX control we'll be introducing soon. The idea here is to provide an icon that can toggle input visibility. You could then use this for scenarios such as password creation inside your applications. Another highly requested feature we're working on is overflow menus. With this feature, you'll be able to classify certain actions as secondary, which means that they'll be rendered under the overflow menu. On screen, for example, edit and delete card are secondary actions available in the adaptive card, which are arguably not the focus of the card. This way, actions such as read online and download issue can take center stage. For more exciting news, adaptive cards with incoming webhooks are now generally available. To recap what we announced at Build, What we support in GA today will be all native adaptive card schema elements except for actions. For actions, specifically, we'll be able to support action.openURL, action.showCard, and action.toggleVisibility. For future support, we are looking to support action.submit with incoming webhooks and the ability to add mentioned users. We're actively listening to user voice for this feature, so please go give a thumbs up to both of these items on user voice if this is a feature that you're interested in. Okay, let's switch gears and briefly talk about templating in adaptive cards. Templating allows card authors to design reusable card templates and reuse them in their backend. Over here, we've got the example of a JSON payload and the corresponding card that it renders. In this example, we're tracking Microsoft's stock price. However, your application might want to track the price of other stocks as well as represent the latest stock price. Now, one way of doing this would be that you recreate the entire JSON payload and update it with the stock price of another stock or with the latest stock price. However, there is a better way of doing this. So with adaptive card templating, you can now separate the card data from the card layout. The complete payload that you see on the right eventually gets generated by bringing together the card layout on the left combined with the card data that you see in the middle. The important thing to note over there is that you get the exact same payload as you combine these together in your backend. Here you see that the card is rendered in exactly the same way as it would have been without templating. To summarize what we've done over here, we've separated the card layout from the card data. And effectively that creates a more efficient process of working with adaptive cards in your backend. You can reuse the same layout for multiple different data objects and combine them to create many different types of adaptive cards. Along the same line, we have the concept of template-based expressions. In adaptive cards today, you've got hundreds of inbuilt functions and operations that can help you make even more dynamic card templates. For example, the card on the screen, I can change the color and the direction of the arrows dependent on the change in the stock price. Ultimately, our hope with card templating and expressions is that it will make it easier for you to manage adaptive cards in your application's backend and allow for even more dynamic content in adaptive cards compared to what was previously possible without these features. Please try this out as we think it will really help and streamline your development process, and do leave us feedback on GitHub or on Twitter. Great, so let's talk about universal actions. We had announced these in build earlier in the year, and now I'll just walk you through on the work that the team has been doing and what we've and the progress that we've made over the past few months. So to quickly recap and show the value proposition of adaptive cards that we have today, that they work across many Microsoft 365 applications such as Outlook, Timeline, Teams, Web Chat, and Cortana, but there is a catch over here. And the catch is that the Outlook and rendering are universal across all of these applications when it comes to adaptive cards, but like action handling and user actions are not. So let me demonstrate what I mean by that over here. Now in this slide, I've got Teams on the left and Outlook on the right, and visually they're performing the same action. The cards even look the same, right? And the scenarios are very much the same, that you want to close the ticket for both of them. However, as we dig into the JSON payloads and the way the cards are constructed, there are different action types that you have to use to construct the exact same card. In Teams on the left, you have to use action.submit, and on Outlook you have to use action.http. Now with universal actions and the new universal action model, like this is the problem that we intend to solve. We will consolidate action.submit that is being used by Bot Framework and Teams, and action.http that is being used by Outlook into one single model called action.execute. So this action type will just work across the board. Effectively, with universal actions, we've just done that. We've standardized the action model across Microsoft 365 applications. Okay, so here it is. Here we have two cards, one in Teams and another in Outlook, both using the universal action model for adaptive cards. Both of these are using the action.execute model, and we will showcase these to you in a few slides. Another thing I want to say over here is that in terms of timelines, we are actively working toward this, and we aim to be in limited developer preview by the end of this year. Contextual views is a new feature in Microsoft Teams that is going to be available as part of universal actions within adaptive cards. It will enable some interesting scenario and use cases for your applications. So let's dig into what these are. So today, when a card is posted inside a team or a channel by either a bot or a user, all members of that channel or the group chat have access to the information of the card. Everyone sees the exact same information, and everyone is able to perform the same actions on that adaptive card. However, we see that there are certain scenarios inside channels or group chats where different users need access to different information in order to perform specific actions or complete workflows. And this is the problem that we would like to address with contextual views in adaptive cards. Contextual views will solve this problem by allowing specific users inside a group chat or a channel to have differentiated or individualized cards. This will allow them to have actions or information that is only specific to them that helps complete the workflow. We can take a few examples over here. In a polling scenario, for example, the poll creator might have a different set of actions than the poll responder. Similarly, another interesting use case over here is approvals. In this, we have two personas. The first one is Daniela, who's the requester, and Marie, who is the approver. Daniela wants to request a discount for a long-time customer from her manager, Marie. And Marie, in this case, as the approver, has the power to either reject or approve the discount. So over here, you can see that in order to complete the workflow end to end, both of them need access to different actions and potentially even different information. So let's see how we can visualize this scenario a little better. So you can see the same workflow side by side over here with Daniela in the requester's view and Marie in the approver's view. This is the same group chat and the approvals bot has been added to their chat. Within Daniela's view, she has the option to cancel the request that she's already requested from Marie. And Marie on her side, in the same adaptive card, has the option to either approve, reject, or ask for more details about the request. So you can see over here that contextual views could really enable some interesting and novel scenarios inside teams with adaptive cards and bots that weren't quite possible up until today. All right, now here's a wrap up of everything that we covered in the presentation today. First off, we started by giving you a quick overview of what adaptive cards are and the design improvements that you can see upcoming in Teams. Features such as user attribution and adaptive cards and incoming webhooks are already generally available today, and others will be available soon. Then we discussed adaptive card templating and how it is a great tool of improving development efficiency on your side, as well as adaptive expressions that allow for creating more dynamic content in adaptive cards. Next, we covered universal actions and contextual views. Universal actions provide for a single development model across both Teams and Outlook. And contextual views will allow for some novel use cases that weren't possible before. Lastly, we covered some really exciting updates coming from the security and compliance perspective. Existing security and compliance scenarios will be extended to adaptive cards content in Teams. The great thing over here is it's available as part of the platform. It comes out of the box and there is no additional work required while you're developing for cards and Teams.
And now we'll have Shubham give us a demo of universal actions and contextual views in Teams and Outlook.
Thanks, Ojasvi. Hey everyone, Shubham here, program manager working on adaptive cards and Teams. So here's a demo on role-based views in Teams and universal actions across Teams and Outlook.
Megan is a safety inspector at Contextual who routinely inspects the sites and reports incidents. Let's see a typical day at Megan's work and how the new capabilities we talked earlier provide rich contextual experiences to her and the team. Megan observes that one of the boilers at a remote site had broken down and files a new incident through Contoso Report Incidents message extension in Teams. The incident card gets posted in the group, and you can see that the message, although posted by the bot, shows it being sent by Megan. This demonstrates the sender attribution feature we talked about a while back. To easily demonstrate role-based views, I've logged into three different user accounts: of Megan's, who files the incident, of Alex, to whom the incident is assigned to, and of Nestor, who represents rest of the group members who are not involved in the process. As you can see, we have different buttons present on the same card for all the three different users. When the incident was created, Alex also received the same card over email. Let's check that out. As you can see, Alex received the same card which was posted in Teams, and he could still see contextual buttons which are only visible to him. As the incident gets resolved, you can see that even the cards that were posted in Teams get updated. This demonstrates role-based views as well as universal actions in cards in Teams.
Thanks, Shubham. So now over to Surya, who'll talk about security and compliance for adaptive cards in Teams.
Thanks, Ojasvi. So let's get started.
Teams is built on the Microsoft 365 hyperscale enterprise-grade cloud, delivering advanced security and compliance capabilities, such as discover and respond, information protection and governance, threat protection, cloud security, risk management, and identity and access management. These capabilities can be managed across Microsoft services, including Teams, through a single pane of glass experience in Microsoft 365 security and compliance centers. To know more on latest updates for security and compliance in Teams, I highly recommend you to check out a dedicated session on this by John. You can find the link to it in the references slide in the end. Currently, these capabilities are available in Teams for chat and file content. As a collaboration hub, Microsoft Teams brings together apps and services you love into Teams. Adaptive cards, being platform agnostic, are preferred vehicles for sharing information between teams and other apps and services, whether you are using apps for project management, productivity, sales and support, and more. Up to 70% of the apps in Teams generate card content, including adaptive cards in Teams conversations. Much of this is business communication, which means it falls under the purview of regulations as it is with Teams chat and file content today. It could contain sensitive information such as PII data which you need to protect. Currently, adaptive card content in Teams conversations is outside Teams security and compliance boundary. Apps have to independently manage security and compliance requirements for this content. Happy to announce we are extending Microsoft 365 security and compliance capabilities to adaptive cards. We'll be starting with Discover and Respond and information protection and governance capabilities. Let's look into Discover and Respond capabilities for adaptive cards in Teams. Now you can preserve adaptive card content by using litigation hold. Applying litigation hold on Teams messages will automatically include adaptive card content. You can search, review, and export adaptive card content in eDiscovery workflow. Again, selecting Teams location will now include adaptive card content as well. User actions on adaptive cards will be available in audit logs for forensics. Now let's look into upcoming information protection and governance capabilities. You can block sensitive information such as PII data in adaptive cards shared in Teams channels or group conversations by applying data loss prevention policies. You can manage lifecycle of adaptive card content in Teams by applying a retention policy. Again, for both data loss prevention and retention, selecting Teams messages in the policy will now include adaptive card content generated by apps. Let's jump into the demo now. In this demo, we will cover Discover and Respond capabilities for adaptive cards. I'll show you how adaptive card content from Teams apps can participate in Microsoft 365 compliance workflows such as litigation hold, e-discovery, and audit we just talked about. Let's consider the following scenario. Adele is part of Project X team at Contoso. Her team has been using apps such as Asana and Poly through the year for project management and productivity. At the end of the year, Adele is given a poor review and she escalates to HR that she was unfairly targeted despite delivering on all the assigned tasks. As a compliance admin, let's see how you can respond to this investigation. Go to Microsoft 365 Compliance Portal. Select e-discovery solution. Start by creating a case and add custodians. Custodians have administrative control of information that's relevant to the investigation. In this case, let's add Adele and her manager Alan. You can associate data sources with the custodian. In this case, we want to include Teams communication as well. Search for Project X team. Adding Teams location will now automatically include adaptive card content in addition to chat and file content. You can place these locations on hold to preserve all potentially important information. You can also manage holds here. Once the custodial locations have been identified and preserved, you can create a search query to find relevant evidence for the investigation. Select custodians. You can also include data sources associated with non-custodians. Again, selecting Teams message will automatically include adaptive card content for these users. Once the search results are ready, you can add them to a review set to process it for further review and analysis. Let's open the review set. Adaptive card content is stored as message attachments. You can see the adaptive cards from Asana, which have information on Adele's work. You can also see content from Poly app. Adele takes regular feedback from her team members on work using this app. You can export all of this evidence, including adaptive card content. To further investigate, you can also dig into audit logs, which capture actions on these cards. We have seen now how compliance admins can discover and respond using e-discovery and audit workflows, which includes adaptive card content in Teams. Okay, you might ask, what should I do to enable these capabilities? There is no additional work required. For compliance admins, as it was shown to you earlier, these capabilities will be available for adaptive card content when you select Teams location in the workflows. For app developers too, there is no additional work. Yes, that's right. These capabilities will be built in platform. And it will be available for all the apps, first-party apps built by Microsoft, third-party apps, and line of business apps. It will be available for all the cards, not just adaptive cards, but also for thumbnail cards, hero cards, etc. That's all the updates I have for security and compliance today. Now I'll hand over to Ojasvi for a quick wrap up.
Thanks, Surya. So let me just quickly walk everyone over through what we covered today. We started off with design improvements around sender attribution, wider width, information masking, and overflow menu. And you can really see that the intent behind all of these features together is that we're really going for fit and polish inside adaptive cards. Next, we covered incoming webhooks inside adaptive cards being generally available, which was like a top user voice item for Teams. Next, we had adaptive card templating, which I would highly recommend that you check out because it'll save you a ton of time, development time down the road. And it's been another one of those highly requested features for adaptive cards. For our next section, we covered universal actions in adaptive cards and contextual views. Universal actions provide for a single development model across both Teams and Outlook. And contextual views for adaptive cards inside Teams are going to enable interesting new scenarios for you to explore and develop on. Lastly, we had security and compliance. And over here, we are basically just extending adaptive card content to security and compliance scenarios inside of Teams. The key takeaway over here is that all of this is built on platform and it's coming soon. And when it's available, no additional work is going to be required on part of developers. We will have, all adaptive card content being opted in by default. Okay, so here are some next steps and resources for you if you're looking to develop for bots and cards in teams. Head over to adaptivecards.io to learn more about adaptive cards and check out the bot framework website for bots. The link over here gives a good overview to like specifically developing for bots and teams. And definitely check out the GitHub samples because they can get you bootstrapped with some code if you're starting from scratch. In terms of other resources, follow us at our developer platform blog for the latest features. And if you've got any things, if you've got any questions, or if you want like additional guidance or for development of teams, feel free to reach out to either of us on Twitter. We'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much, and we hope you had a great session and you learned something today. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.